Hello, class of 2014. I am honored to be a co-valedictorian along with my brother Mihir. When Mr. Farley first told me that I would be giving this speech with the theme of giving advice, I had no idea what I would say. After thinking these last few weeks, I still don't know what I'm going to say. To be honest, I don't believe my GPA qualifies me to give advice. More than that, I've learned so much from all of you, the class of 2014, that I believe giving advice would be almost insulting. In these last 4 years, the most important values that I learned came after my biggest failures. And today, I'd like to share 2 of these. The first has been a lack of experience. Maybe it's because I spent too much time on my academics, but I've missed out on a lot these last 4 years. Sometimes, it's as simple as missing out on a Friday night football game or basketball game. Times to meet new people and relax after a long and stressful week. Another time, it's the failure to take risks, to put myself out there. For example, these last 4 years, I didn't ask someone to homecoming. Now, while this might seem trivial, it is these experiences that make us interesting people. And let me tell you, as soon as we leave school, nobody's going to care about your GPA or your test scores. They'll care about where you've been, what you've seen, and what you've done. Our experiences fuel our conversations, and as Henry Longfellow once said, a simple conversation across the table with a wise man is better than 10 years mere study of books. I am inspired by the members of this class who have shown me experiences that I will never forget. We've been part of a class that has won 3 straight track and field state champions in a row, an absolutely unbelievable feat. A class who sent a robotic team to nationals where at one point they stood as 4th in the world. A class that has organized senior bingo nights and kids nights with a passion to help our community. And a class that looked at a daunting stretch to block schedule with a determination to succeed. As we move on to the next chapter in our life, I only ask that you keep looking for experiences, keep taking risks. We will become better for it. The second of my failures was a lack of strength, or I should say strength of character. I hate admitting it, but freshman year I was nervous. Nervous what others would think of me, nervous if I'd make it, and nervous to meet people's expectations. It was a kind of thinking that led to a lot of self-criticism and a lot of self-doubt. And this lack of confidence in myself held me back those first 2 years in high school. I was refused to join a sport, sure that I would always be the weakest, the slowest, and the least skilled. And the one thing I did pick up speech and debate, my performances were uninspiring at best. Worst of all, my mindset made it difficult for me to make new friends. I was trying so hard not to disappoint someone that I lost myself, and let me tell you, that is much worse than any B or C on a report card. But all of you have helped me realize how stupid I've been all along. In my experience, this is a class where who you are matters much more than what you do or who you hang out with. During the last few pep rallies, our class cheered for the National Merit Semi-Finalists just as much as they did for the football and the soccer teams. The next pep rally, our class rose to its feet when a fellow debater spit some mad rhymes. And when things got a bit chaotic near the end of the year, none of us felt paranoid about helping a fellow classmate who'd gotten in a bit of trouble. I've learned to be confident in my own skin because this class has taught me that that's what matters. I've learned to ignore the checks or the clicks that bind less incredible high schools because this class has taught me that that is far more important than any metric of academic achievement. At the end of the day, I have to say thank you. Thank you so much for teaching me these last 4 years, for being my friends, my mentors, and my teachers. As we move on to bigger and better things, I will never forget my time at Brookfield East. I'd like to leave you with some words that I believe summarize my message nicely. Nothing's going to hurt you the way the words do when they settle into your skin. Kept on the inside and no sunlight. Sometimes shadow waves. But I wonder, what would happen if you say what you want to say and let the words fall out? Honestly, I want to see you be brave. Thank you and congratulations to the class of 2014.
All right, as you guys may have guessed, I'm the Co-Valedictorian. My name is Mihir. And I just want to say, that was a good speech, Akshay. It was a very good speech. But I don't want there to be any sort of confusion. Even though, we're Co-Valedictorians, and this is for the audience too, never forget that I will always be 20 minutes older than you. I know that these past couple of school weeks have been a bit chaotic. I know that we've all been a bit paranoid about wrapping up our career here and moving on. I know that we as seniors for 4 years have held Brookfield East as our turf. But bear with me for a bit longer. Imagine this scenario. 2 newborn babies are lying side by side in the hospital and they glance at each other. 90 years later, through a remarkable coincidence, the two are back in the same hospital, lying side by side in the same room. They look at each other, and one of them says, "So what'd you think?" Now, it's going to be a very long time before you have to answer that question. Brookfieldies will no doubt have a part in your answer, but now I'm supposed to give you advice to help you develop a narrative once you move beyond these halls. And so to do so, I've decided to tell a story, one that I think we can all learn from. It's a story about a doctor in the 1950s, and her name was Alice Stewart. And Alice wasn't a typical doctor. You see, at the time, she was interested in the emerging field of epidemiology, which is the study of patterns of disease. And she was also a person of a certain kind of intellectual rigor, the kind of person that looks for hard problems and tries to solve them. One of the first problems Alice tried to solve was the problem of childhood cancer. As you may well know, most diseases correlated with poverty. But in the case of childhood cancers, the children who are dying seem mostly to come from affluent families. And she wanted to know what could explain this anomaly. Alice had trouble getting funding for her research. In the end, she only got about £1,000, which isn't that much. So she knew that she had one shot of finding her answer. Not sure where to start, she resorted to gathering as much data as she possibly could. She asked anything she could think of. Had the children eaten boiled goose? Had they consumed carbonated drinks? Did they have indoor or outdoor plumbing? Were they active or were they passive? Did their parents own a car? And when she plotted all the data, one thing and only one thing jumped out on the bell curve. By a rate of 2 to 1, the children who had died had had mothers that had had x-rays when they were pregnant. Now, the actual results aside, how did Alice know that she was right? Well, she had a fantastic and unique model of thinking. She worked with a statistician named George Neal. And the phrase "worked with" is a little bit misleading. Rather than support and work with her, he worked against her. His job was to prove Dr. Stewart wrong. He actively looked for different ways of looking at her models, at her statistics, different ways of sifting through the data to contradict her. He argued with her and he disagreed with her. Because by not being able to prove that she was wrong, Alice had the confidence to know that she was right. And within the story, I think there's a certain kind of hidden humor. The story is a narrative fundamentally about disagreement, about how disagreement can create progress, about how sometimes the best kind of partnership isn't usually reinforcing, but rather disconfirming. Now, most of us are 18 years old, and all of us are, at least for a little while longer, seniors in high school. We have convictions, we have passions, and we have assumptions of the world around us. But my challenge and my advice to you is this. Follow Alice and George and dare to disagree. Disagree with those who tell you that they are right and that you are wrong, but also disagree with yourself. Ask questions, challenge your most basic assumptions, and dedicate your life toward answering those very same questions. The world is never changed by those who think they know it all. It's changed by those who know that they don't, and who are willing to ask the questions and have the conversations to try and change that. There's a famous Yiddish proverb that provides some valuable insight. It goes a little something like this. To a worm in horseradish, the world is horseradish. Many of us are, when you really think about it, little worms crawling around in our own horseradish, comfortable in our own belief systems. I certainly am. But our last and perhaps most important homework assignment in high school should be to dare to move beyond the horseradish. Dare to understand that our beliefs are merely one of many. Surround yourself with people who challenge you, who question you, and who make you think and reflect about the world around you. Because I guarantee that you will be better because of it. Thank you, class of 2014, for constantly challenging me and asking me questions. I can't wait to hear all the stories you're going to tell.